because yeah, we've had a few people who couldn't make it, so we thought we'd record this with them. And then the other thing, so how this kind of panel style was going to work is that we'd each spend 5 minutes kind of picking a topic, talking a bit about Matchable, and asking each other's questions. And so that will last sort of 20 minutes. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end where we'll pick up any questions that you drop into the chat, or if you want to, because we're a nice small group, we can actually kind of have a conversation if you guys are up for it. Cool. So without further ado, and now Jack, I think Jack's here. Hey, Jack. We will kick off. So as I mentioned, my name's Fung and I'm the founder of Matchable. I'll do a quick intro to me. So I was actually at PwC for 13 years prior to becoming the founder of Matchable. It's quite a long time. I was a tax consultant. And I used to do tax structuring for private equity and real estate funds that were buying and selling kind of portfolio companies. I really enjoyed it for the most part. What happened was actually Mills and I, so Rich, who's actually also on the Zoom, co-founded our own kind of side hustle called Suits and Startups. And the whole thing around that was actually to bring together people in startup world, so entrepreneurs and people in the city, to kind of hang out, innovate, and sort of kind of exchange ideas and do things together. And through that, I actually sort of really developed a love for startup world, which was great. So I ended up taking a sabbatical for 3 months where I did a bit of startup consulting, and I realized I really wanted to try my hand at being a founder. But I also realized that the risks of a first-time founder failing are quite high. So I ended up actually going and hanging out at a lot of incubators where a lot of startup ideas were coming out from, and they were recruiting for founders having tested the ideas a little bit more. And that's how I came across this founder role at Matchable. And Matchable itself was a startup that was incubated by the Good Lab. And the Good Lab is an incubator that was formed by 8 of the UK's largest charities and their innovation teams, and also a group of innovation consultants called Good Innovation. And the whole idea was that over 3 years, they would come up with startup ideas that the charities could invest in, so to prove a model that they could make money from investment in profit-making businesses, but that also had a purpose, so they would solve some of their collective issues as charities. And they actually had a session on volunteering, and the charities kept saying, you know, it's great that particularly, I guess, corporate employees keep coming to try and paint our fences and plant trees and things, which is great to do as a company together, great for team building, but actually it's not as impactful as it could be, because we actually really need their skills. So they actually ran a few test projects and said, you know, this matching could be done much better. They thought that Matchable as a startup was a viable idea, so they actually put an ad to find a founder, and that's when I joined them in January 2019. So that's the long and short history of Matchable and how this idea came about. Since then, so we've been going for almost 1.5 years. I can't believe it, actually. And the team who I'm about to introduce have been with us since January. We raised our first round of investment in summer last year, which has been actually a bit of a godsend given the recent sort of coronavirus environment. And yeah, I mean, if you have any questions about the journey, I'm happy to talk about that. But it's not all about me, of course. So maybe I will start to introduce the team. So Sarika, who are you and what is your current role at Matchable?
Hello everyone. So I am the non-profit and startups lead at Matchable. So that basically involves sourcing the projects from a real range of exciting, innovative startups and other non-profits. Yeah, that's my role.
And Sarika, you were previously at another mental health startup
Yeah.
called Spill. Tell us a bit about that and how it kind of translates into what you do now.
Yeah, so Spill were a Tech for Good organisation, and they were doing something really, really great, really interesting, trying to bring therapy to the masses. So stereotypically, therapy is seen to be something that you only go and do if you're having a crisis or are suffering with a really severe mental health issue. And Spill was trying to kind of change the narrative and conversation around that and actually get everyone access to therapy. So the way they were trying to do that was through an app. So instead of having to engage with a therapist face to face, you could do that over message. And yeah, they were really trying to kind of push that within organisations to support the mental well-being of their staff. So I was partnerships manager there, which meant that my role was to go into those organisations and actually get people using the app, which was amazing. Quite difficult at times as well, because although the conversation around mental health has definitely changed and we're kind of talking a lot about it more openly, there's definitely still quite far to go, especially with lots of like the larger old school corporates. And yeah, that kind of brought about some challenges. And then, yeah, I guess in terms of how it links into what I'm doing now, so obviously they're a Tech for Good. My role at Matchable, as I mentioned before, involves sourcing projects. And as I've had a bit of insight into that world and have seen like how fast-paced and innovative and high impact those organisations can be, it's meant that a large focus for my role has been trying to source projects from those kind of organisations that really kind of are at the forefront of what's going on, whether that's mental well-being or clean tech, health tech, ed tech. So yeah, that's it about me.
Cool, thanks Sarika. And Jess, so tell us who you are and what do you do at Matchable?
Hi everyone, I'm Jess and I'm corporate lead at Matchable. So that means I look after our corporate clients. We look at their skill sets, their team skill sets and the causes that align with the company DNA, and we onboard them and we find them the right projects. But I also help on a sort of individual level. So I help with account management and helping an individual find the right project that means a lot to them. So we try and make our service quite personal. So that's my role.
Cool, thanks Jess. Jess was also previously a founder of an app called So Me, which I'm sure you can tell us a bit about.
So Me was a location-based fashion app that I founded with the idea to make street style shoppable. I sort of thought of the idea because I just love watching people and looking at their outfits all day, as weird as that sounds, but I thought if I could take that inspiration from the street and put that into my phone, then you could put some real life inspiration back into the fashion space. So I sort of wrote the wireframes, designed the wireframes, got a developer, and bootstrapped it myself, and then put a little team together and realised that you can't just have an app because it's nice, you kind of have to make money out of it as well. So onboarded a few high street retailers and sorted some commission and referrals out. So I guess how that kind of translates today with my role, working with big brands, we work with big corporates, but also really understanding the user and providing a platform that hopefully our users like, iterating and making it better for them. So that's that.
Cool. And Jess was also in Team GB Judo, so if anyone ever wants tips, I'm sure you should actually do like a little session for us, like for the team.
Definitely do a little webinar session. How safe that would be.
Probably more for us, we'd all probably injure ourselves. Thanks, Jess. And last but not least, Ellie, tell us a bit about you and what you do at Matchable.
I'm the digital marketing and community lead. So that really means that I try and get people into the business, try and get people interested, tell them what we do, and then also make sure that they have a good experience once they get into the business. So really making sure that they're supported and they feel like they've got that contact point the whole way through.
Thanks, Ellie. And so Ellie used to work at Patch Plants, hence the one plant, but actually Ellie is often surrounded by many, many plants when you see her. So how is selling plants compared to, well, how is selling projects different to selling plants? Or maybe it's similar?
I think there's both sides. So I think it's really different in one sense because we're selling a service rather than a product. And it's generally easier to sell a product. You can show people a really aspirational image and all they have to do is buy a £15 thing and they're closer to being there. Whereas selling a service, you have to really show people why it's of value in a very different way. But I think actually in another way, we have a very similar approach where at Patch, we didn't just want people to buy a plant and then we got rid of them. We really wanted to make sure that they knew how to care for it, and we wanted to educate people and build a community where everyone was really supported. And I think we've had a similar thing at Matchable where we don't just want people to do a project and then get out of our hair. We really want them to know like how to approach it best, why it's good for them, why it's good for the organization they're working for. So rather than being just like a one-stop shop, we're like a full service. So actually it's got a weird similarity where I didn't expect it to. But it's really nice because I think as a marketer, you can become quite cynical because your whole job is often selling people something. And that's quite depressing. So it's nice to know that actually you're helping make the world better through that.
Nice, thank you. So we somehow similar to plants as well.
In a weird way, yeah.
In a weird way. Cool. Well, I'll hand over to you, Ellie, now to ask us a few questions.
Yeah, so we thought before we went into sort of talking about the process of, you know, what happens once you get involved, we talk about maybe why people would want to get involved. So what are the benefits of volunteering, and especially volunteering or picking up a project through Matchable? So the first question I'm going to ask is for Jess, and that's asking about what are the benefits of the Matchable experience? Why are people getting involved?
Thanks, Ellie. So firstly, I think it's the opportunity to do good and use your skills outside of your 9 to 5. But also we work with people who like the idea of doing projects because it gives them purpose, motivation. But we also provide something different to other platforms, and that's direct access to founders and innovation teams at some of the UK's most innovative charities and non-profits and impact startups. And you really do get the opportunity to roll your sleeves up and work with these amazing people at the forefront of innovation, shaping the future, as Sarika said, of edtech, femtech, clean tech, innovation in the Far East, you name it, we've got lots of projects. So it's really about the access to our community and our network of these amazing founders. And I guess also lots of people will do projects with Matchable because they get the opportunity to upskill and use their skills in an agile way, as I said, outside of the 9 to 5. Some people have, most people use their volunteering days as they're part of a company, and but during the lockdown period, we've had people who have been on furlough who've used our service just to kind of keep the momentum going, keep motivated, and obviously, as I said at the beginning, do good with some amazing organisations. And I'm sort of blown away every time a project comes in because most of these organisations are doing some amazing things. Hopefully that answers the question. Oh, I was going to maybe give an example. We had a really great organisation called The Communality, and they have produced a platform for people with a really sort of niche problem. They suffer from histamine intolerance. It's not at the forefront of everyone's mind, but it's a real issue. And we matched the founder of The Communality with a lovely member called Nima, and this was a really interesting, this is an interesting example of sort of upskilling, because the project was originally about branding, but when coronavirus hit, they both sat down together and they looked at the market and what the new market could be, and they looked at the strategy beyond COVID. So they really worked together, and that, you know, they're still friends and they're still working together. And actually Nima really wants to carry on helping the communality. So we love those kinds of stories, and yeah, it just proves why it's great to do a project with Matchable.
Definitely. And then I guess from the other side, maybe Sarika would be able to tell us a bit about why it's great for the organisations as well, so the people that you would be doing a project with.
Yeah, definitely. So I think for the real reason why we do this essentially is to help all these amazing organisations, whether they're charities, social enterprises or impact startups, further their cause. And a lot of the organisations we work with are actually quite small a lot of the time, so they don't necessarily have access to the skill sets that will enable them to push their cause and reach as many people as possible. So part of what we're doing is matching them with some really incredible talented people who can actually help them to do that. So I'll give an example like Jess did. We matched an organisation called BounceWorks, who are really, really great. They are using gaming and they're using gaming to try and help young children who are experiencing grief deal with that grief. And I guess also given the circumstances currently with coronavirus, they've actually found that they've had a lot more children and their families want to use their platform, because grief is something that many people are experiencing more of at the moment. So the founder of BounceWorks, Louis, was really, really grateful that we partnered him with an individual called Russell, who had a lot of branding experience and marketing experience too. So BounceWorks worked with Russell over the course of, I think it was about 2 to 3 months actually, so it was a fairly long-term project. And Russell really helped BounceWorks to kind of rebrand, change their branding, make sure that they had the right tone in order to reach as many young children as possible and to help them with some of their struggles. So that was a really, really great project. Both sides were really happy with the outcome. I think Russell also learned lots of new skills, and he'd previously, I don't think he'd worked in an organisation so small before. And it was really, really exciting project with an amazing outcome.
Thank you. So I guess that's a bit about why you might want to get involved with a project with Matchable. And I'm going to hand over to Sarika now to talk about the next section.
Keep forgetting that I'm on mute. So I have a few questions just about the Matchable experience and how it actually works for you as an individual coming on board. So these probably are more so for Jess. So Jess, if I was an individual who was interested in joining Matchable, how can I go about actually being matched to a project? What does that process look like?
Absolutely. So we are focused on B2B. And what that means is, well, everyone knows what that means, but essentially we would ask you to maybe get in touch with your team leaders or your L&D department or your HR department. It's not as scary as it sounds because it's volunteering and everyone loves volunteering. But we would just say, get in touch with them and let them know that you'd love to do a project with Matchable. Either that, or if you want to buddy up with some colleagues, 2 to 3 colleagues, maybe some more, then you can get in touch with us and we can sort of make that happen for you. We can also go to your team leaders and your HR leaders and get you signed up to Matchable projects.
Lovely. And then I guess, say once I as an individual has found my perfect project, how do I actually start that, and what does that look like in terms of time commitment?
So obviously we would help you find that perfect project, and that means asking you what your skill set is and what causes mean the most to you. And when we found that project for you, we will make the introduction to the founder of the nonprofit or impact startup, and then it's up to you to sort of you both to book a call, and really sort of scope out how much time you can give the nonprofit or impact startup, and you'll get to know the organisation a bit better, and then really it's very flexible. So as Sarika said, with the Bounce Works and the Russell example, that went on for 3 months, but we do have projects that last a week, or you can phase them over a couple of months or a couple of weeks. It's really up to you and your capacity, and obviously the nonprofit and how much they need from you. So I think the point I'm trying to make is the fact that we're very flexible with our projects, and as are the nonprofits and impact startups.
Great, thank you, Jess. I think you've now got a few questions for me about the project side of things.
I do. I guess these are the questions that everyone wants to hear, and it's about the projects. So just interested in how we source the projects, and we'll also talk about our favourite projects in a bit. But I guess it's just what kind of organisations do we work with? If you could just describe that for us.
Yeah, sure. So I kind of touched upon it earlier a little bit. So we work with charities, social enterprises who kind of fall under the non-profit side of things, and then also impact startups as well. So generally with the impact startups, they tend to be a lot of tech for goods. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in that space. But I guess like overall, a key factor for us is that those organisations, whether they're a charity or an impact startup, are doing something that's either innovative or high impact, and they can provide us with an innovative project that's really exciting. And also when it comes to sourcing the actual projects themselves, we never ever want to put work on that charity or social enterprise or impact startup. So we will always source the project from the need of that organisation, as opposed to kind of looking at the individual and saying, okay, you want this kind of project, let me go and find that. It very much, it always comes from the need of the nonprofit or startup. So yeah, hopefully that explains it.
Thank you. So just in terms of what the projects look like, I imagine they're skills focused first. Could you just describe what a typical project might look like? I mean, we'll go into our favourite projects in a bit, but I guess it's skills required.
Yeah, it really varies. So we really like to ensure that we've got a diverse range of projects on the platform. So that can be anything from digital marketing to web development, to some consulting, business strategy. We had a lot of that actually around the kind of the start of this pandemic. A lot of the organisations we were working with were really looking at how they were having to shift their business strategy. And we had a lot of requests for organisations who were hoping to have some advice from people at corporates. So yeah, it really varies. We have a really diverse range of skill sets that the nonprofits and startups need help with.
Amazing. And I guess now's the time to probably just give a few examples. So we're going to run through our favourite projects. I have many, but I picked out Brides Do Good. So this is a really interesting organisation. Brides Do Good is the luxury sustainable wedding dress that anyone can afford, and they get donations from internationally renowned designers and iconic designers, and they curate a collection and sell these wedding dresses at pop-up stores, and for every £3 they make, they invest £1 to empower women and to end child marriage. Now this is really important. Each year 12 million girls are married under the age of 18, so they're denied the chance of choosing their future, and essentially they currently have a pop-up store, and they would like to lease a property to hold their collection and obviously to scale. So they're looking for legal help, anyone with a law degree or a legal background on questions on tax and staffing, etc. But this is a really amazing organisation who require quite a niche skill set. So yeah, that's Brides Do Good. I think Eddie has a really interesting organisation.
Yeah, I think we all thought this was a really great organisation when we came in. It's called Commonly, and they're basically dealing with the taboo of incontinence. So it's something that affects 1 in 4 people, especially as people get older, but also after childbirth. But it's definitely not something that's really talked about. And they are approaching it from sort of multiple angles. So on the one hand, they've developed a product to help people who are suffering from incontinence. But rather than essentially the adult nappies that are currently available, they're trying to make sure it's just like normal underwear so people can really feel like they're just going about their lives as normal. But they're also doing sort of a community building side. So they've got support and advice and a community where people can talk to each other about their experiences. And their project is more on that community side. So they want, it's a social media and content creation project. So they really want to get all of their social media channels up and running so that they can better engage their users and have a real dialogue with them. And ultimately, the ideal outcome of this project would be to have them all running with a plan to see how they can continue that into the future. And especially nowadays, a lot of people have social media knowledge and skills, so it's definitely a really, really great project to have in our database. And I think Fung's going to speak about her favourite now.
Yeah, so this is a new project that we just got in. I really love this project because actually it's a new startup called Silver Sharers. And it basically is a marketplace that connects homeowners who are over 50 with kind of people who want to rent a room in their house. And it's really nice because it actually allows them to kind of age gracefully in their own home. One of the reasons I really love this project is because the founder of this startup, actually I've admired from afar for a really long time. Her name's Susan Noble, and she actually originally developed an app called Frugal, which I used to use quite a lot because it used to basically tell you where all the sort of free really interesting things were happening across London. So she's a really experienced entrepreneur, and now she started doing Silver Sharers because actually her other half was looking for someone to rent his room. And they've been featured in The Guardian and all that kind of stuff. The project itself is actually like a website rebranding project. I think they want to actually kind of change up the name a little bit because Silver Sharers sort of implies that the homeowners are maybe a little bit older than 50. And maybe, I don't know about the silver bit. But anyway, so yeah, if anyone is interested, it's a really cool project and you'll be working with an amazing startup team. And I think Sarika, are you going to tell us about your favourite project?
Yeah, definitely. So I picked this project because I love cooking. So this organisation, they're called Diaspo, and they're doing something really interesting using or connecting cultures and different generations through online cooking classes. So all the classes are live, they're very intimate. I think they have a maximum of 7 or 8 people in a class. And you are taught by an individual who has a particular dish that they would love to share with you. And they really break down the steps, and they kind of tell you a story about a bit about their background and why this particular dish means so much to them. And they'll share their top tips and secrets as well. And yeah, the point is to kind of help increase interactions between different generations, and using food to connect cultures as well. So this project, they're actually looking for someone who has a bit of branding experience, but also copywriting skills in particular. So a big thing for Diaspo, in order to kind of sell their product and their offering, is kind of being able to articulate the stories of the individuals really well. So they're looking for someone to kind of bring their brand to life and put those stories across in a really engaging and creative way. And yeah, this is a very flexible project. Obviously, will be done remotely. And yeah, I thought it was a really, really nice one.
Cool. So thank you, Team Matchable. Does anyone have any questions for us? That was all that we kind of prepared to talk about, but we're always happy to talk more about projects or process, or any other questions about anything really.
Can I ask about the business model, which might seem, I don't know if that's inappropriate, but
No, absolutely.
You know, what happens to somebody, for example, that's paired with a business that then becomes part of the team? I presume that's a possibility, and they become a paid team member.
Mm-hmm.
And is Matchables just based on subscription?
Yeah, so we have two different business models actually. So we offer very bespoke packages to companies who sign up and want to offer it to their employees. So it varies really from kind of a paper match model. Sometimes if we're sourcing more kind of upskilling or group projects for them, to membership that they could pay for their employees, and it's usually around the cost of kind of like a gym membership. If an individual joins through their company, obviously we'd hope that you wouldn't have to pay because it would be covered by your company. I would say that over the last month or so, we actually have had quite a few early adopters and test users on our membership. Some of them were actually freelance, and there was then that possibility that they would join the nonprofit or impact startup full time. We wouldn't expect to charge them or continue to charge them a membership in that case at all. They would just become, kind of full-time person over there. The way the membership works is that every month you pay, you get one project per month. If you want to pick up an additional project, it's like a small additional charge. But once we've matched you, we sort of provide the support throughout the project and as it ends, but we don't take another payment for that match. So whatever relationship goes on with the startup or nonprofit after that, like we would love for people to keep going. We don't charge anymore for that.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Hey Richard, how are you?
Yeah, how are you doing? So yeah, if I look at something like Diaspo, it's a very interesting business, but it looks like a commercial enterprise rather than a non-profit enterprise. So in terms of your market positioning, if you like, and your sort of rationale as helping charities, where do you draw that line?
Yeah, I mean, I can start off, but Sarika can probably explain more. I think broadly we are happy to help any organisation that's purpose-driven, so whether they are for-profit or non-profit. But yeah, maybe Sarika, you can explain a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I mentioned before, so we do work with charities and social enterprises, but also, like Fung was mentioned, any startup that has a for good angle. So Diaspo, for example, they're looking to, they're for profit, but they are looking to, one of the reasons why they want to increase relationships between intergenerations, or yeah, if that makes sense, is because loneliness is a increasing problem in the elderly population. So they were hoping to use cooking, or they are using cooking as a way to, kind of increase the opportunities for elderly people to make friends with people they maybe necessarily wouldn't meet on an everyday basis. So yeah, using cooking to also help decrease that loneliness, which they may be facing as well. So
okay, so commercial businesses that have a social enterprise embedded in their model, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. So we wouldn't turn away a for-profit organisation. They just have to have that for good element to them.
And in that case, the person they're looking for, they're still looking for an unpaid volunteer. They're not expecting to pay the person.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the time, these really small organisations, they just don't have money. They don't have money. And usually a lot of these skill sets, so things like branding and marketing, I mean, they are so essential to a business, but they usually they fall quite low down the list in terms of like hiring. So they tend to not actually have anyone on the team who's doing that that work. So yeah, we do have a lot of organisations who come to us with projects within like the branding and marketing area.
I mean, Diaspo is one of the Zinc
Yes.
cohort as well. I don't know if people have heard of Zinc, but it's an incubator that actually brings together potential founders, so very purpose-driven individuals, to actually create startups around a particular social cause. So Diaspo actually came out of a cohort who were ideating around the aging population actually, and specifically things like intergenerational interaction and also reducing loneliness in elder people. So I think that's how we also found them. Cool. Any other questions?
Hi team. Thank you. Sorry, go on.
Oh,
Actually,
go on if you go on, Natalie.
oh, sorry, I interrupt. Thank you team. It's really good, and I'm actually really excited about it. I think yeah, thank you for the presentation and the panel. My question is around, so I'm involved in like a wellbeing group in my company. Would you prefer like through kind of a HR and my employer to get involved? So we have like a team dedicated and utilize a skill set, or do you prefer like individuals? Because I'm conscious that like I do work for a big company and it is a nightmare to navigate HR, and I'm sure we will resonate with that. So yeah, I'm not sure to connect with HR, how long does it take? My experience is going to take ages. So what's your tips and what's your thoughts on that?
I'd say we kind of want to make the process for you as easy as possible. Our mission is to match skilled individuals with the people who need it the most. So if we can obviously take this offline, but if you said to me that the process of going to HR was a bit laborious and quite long, then we definitely find another route, and maybe there's another point of contact that we can go to. As I said before, if it's just you, or if you want to buddy up with someone else, often like more people make the case stronger. But we definitely find a way for you to get matched, and hopefully get the matchable experience, whether that's through HR or your manager or anyone else, and we would help you put the case together. So the case for why would Matchable be good for me, and what can I bring back to the company that I work for using Matchable. Sorry, there's some motorbikes outside. I hope that answers your question, but obviously I'll give you my email, and we can discuss that further if you like.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm just wondering the case for connecting with HR is because, I hope my employer will be on board and just pay for the membership, or is it something that maybe I can raise it with my team, and we're just like, maybe there's some like wellbeing budget that we can use. And so I'm just wondering like, where's it coming from, and is it trying like to connect like a corporate to small businesses so they can like help each other? So sort of like, why do we need to go through the kind of like company?
I mean, when the way we usually work with companies, there is a budget in learning and development, there's a budget in CSR, and there's a budget in HR. Sometimes there's a budget in wellbeing, but we do work on a case-by-case basis. So as I said before, we try and make it easy as possible for you as an individual to get matched. But different cases vary. So
I'd say also, just to add to what Jess was saying, at the moment, so because this sort of membership model is something that we've just launched, we're doing a few kind of pilots at different companies, and the idea behind that is trying to sign up like a small pilot team. So if you're part of a smaller team, like you don't have to onboard your whole company, but if you and your team of like 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 did want to try us out, then we are doing kind of free pilots for a month, so you could test us and see if you you liked it. And that also helps us gather the data to actually then kind of present back as a business case to your HR or your or whoever needs to sign off, your team leader.
Yeah, that sounds a good idea. Thank you.
Cool. No,
So just picking up on Natalie's point. So for something like, let's say, Diaspora, who wants some help with the website or their marketing, that would often suit someone in a small business. So will this still be looking for a team? And in terms of the model, how does it work? Do Diaspo pay a Diaspo paying anything, or is the company paying the full fee of the person that's placing?
Just to maybe kick off, I suppose, on that. So I wouldn't necessarily say that Diaspo need to be matched with someone from a small team. I mean, we have a partnership with a creative agency called Dentsu, and they're like one of the biggest agencies in the world, which is great. And individuals from there can, choose to take on the project on an individual basis. So that can also work even if they're from a bigger company, but they use their volunteering days or their training days. At the moment we are, and as a result of coronavirus, to be honest, we just didn't feel like it was right to charge any non-profits or impact startups for matches at the moment. So Diaspora are not paying for us to match them, but usually we would charge a fee for the match. And it's usually quite a nominal fee, to be honest, just to make sure that they're engaged in the project and give it a bit of attention, make sure that you guys also get the right experience. Cool. Livia, did you have a question?
Yeah, forgive me if you've already covered this. My laptop had a meltdown midway through the meeting. But I guess my question was more around like how, if you could walk me through how it actually looked like. So if, for example, I signed up through my company, 3 of us were available for the project. What would happen then? If you could just walk me through the practicalities of what that would look like.
Jess, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so the question is if 3 of you signed up and you wanted to do the same project or different projects?
We're for one project as a team of 3, or I don't know. I guess that's my first assumption, is we can sign up as a team onto a project. So I guess you can first address whether that's a possibility, and if we do a sort of sign up to a project as a team, how does the actual ops work of like coordinating that project or doing the check-ins, or is there a set number of hours, like just in terms of, I guess you can first address like how it actually runs.
Sure. So if you can sign up and do it, sorry. You can sign up, so with if you wanted to sign up with 3 of your colleagues, you would each be able to pick your own projects. You wouldn't have to do one project, but also you're very welcome to do a project, do the same project and work on it as a team of 3. So just in terms, if you signed up and did your own project, as I said before, you'd have an introductory call and you would say, right, I have 20 hours of volunteering a year, and I want to use all of those. I'm going to be able to spread that over the next couple of weeks, or I'd rather just do it in one go and do it over 1 to 2 days. So that's how that would work. And you would obviously have conversations with the non-profit and impact startup. They don't check your hours. They're if you did need to check your hours, that would be between you and your company. I, as an account manager or the Matchable team, will do regular check-ins just to make sure you're getting the best out of your Matchable experience. If you had any issues, and just to make sure you're getting on with the non-profit. If you wanted to do a group project, the same sort of thing would apply, and you would sort of delegate roles and work that out with the non-profit or impact startup as well. But you could absolutely do that with the team, and then I, as the account manager, would help you organise that in terms of ops. I hope that answers your question.
I just add to that as well. Maybe it's helpful to give an example. So we recently actually had a couple of ladies sign up from the same organisation. One of them was on furlough actually, and one of them was her friend who was still working quite hard. But she was really kind, and she actually bought her furloughed friend a membership to Matchable, which was great. So what we did with them was we onboarded them. So what happens at the beginning is, you know, Jess will send over a very nice email welcoming you to the community, and then you actually get access to a hub, which is 30 to 40 projects that have all been pre-curated and pre-selected because they meet a real need, but they also are either innovative and or high impact. So that's Sarika's kind of already vetted them for you. They all have a bit of an idea in terms of the skill set that they require. So if you did want to use particular skills or refine or upskill in particular areas, then you can filter them for that. And they are all, to be honest, like they can all be done remotely, and they are, most of them, just flexible depending on your capacity. So they start usually at 1 or 2 hours. In total. So even if you wanted to do a bit of user research, or you wanted to do something a bit kind of more self-contained, you can do that. And actually the 2 ladies who signed up, we matched them with an organisation called the Hub of Hope, which is actually the UK's largest database of mental health resources, which is also used by the NHS and all that kind of stuff. They help them onboard a whole bunch of new mental health organisations onto the platform. They did that over the course of a week, and they did that together as kind of 2 friends helping out and volunteering. So that's the kind of thing, and as Jess says, then she's on hand to check in and kind of make sure everything's running smoothly as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions from anyone else? No? Silence. Any questions from the team for anyone else on the team? No. Okay.
If anyone doesn't want to ask a question, I'm sure hopefully you have our email addresses. If not, we'll send a follow-up email anyway, so you can take any of your questions and bring them to us. So just let us know.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, we'll wrap up there then, and thank you so much for your time and for joining. It's lovely to see everyone's faces or pictures, and yeah, keep in touch whether you're signing up or not. It was great to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
So much.
Thank you very much. Bye.